You may have heard this claim before, that Rebekah in the Bible was 3 years old when she was married. And usually, this comes up in comparisons between different religious texts. So let's slow this down for a second. What does the text actually say? Let's go straight to Genesis 24. Here's how Rebekah is introduced. The woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever slept with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. Just notice what's happening. She goes down to a well, draws water, carries it back up. That's the starting point. But it doesn't stop there. In Genesis 24, it says, "Drink, my lord," she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. After she had given him a drink, she said she would draw water for the camels until they had enough. She keeps going, back and forth, until all the camels are done. Not once, repeatedly. Now, pause there for a second. Camels can drink large amounts of water. This means multiple trips, full jars, back and forth. This is not symbolic language. This is physical work. That's not how the text describes a small child. Now notice how she's described. In Genesis 24:16, the woman. The text presents her as a young woman, not an infant, not a toddler, and that fits everything we just read. But there's more. Watch how the decision is handled. In Genesis 24, they said to call the young woman and ask her, "Will you go with this man?" She said she would go. They ask her directly, and she answers. That's personal agency. Then we're told this. In Genesis 24:61, Rebekah and her attendants got ready, mounted the camels, and went back with the man. She travels. She has attendants. She's stepping into a new household role. Everything in the passage points in the same direction. So, where does the idea that she was 3 come from? It's not in Genesis. It comes from later rabbinic interpretation, especially Rashi, and that interpretation is based on a timeline. Genesis tells us that Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, and from earlier in the text, Isaac is 37 when Sarah dies. So some interpreters connect those events and calculate backward. That's where the number comes from. But that calculation depends on a set of assumptions about how those timelines relate. And the text itself never makes that connection explicitly. The Bible never states her age. And the narrative describes her in a way that reflects activity, responsibility, and independent decision-making. So the claim depends on interpretation built on top of the text, not something stated in the text itself. So stay with the text. What do we actually see? A young woman, working, speaking, deciding, traveling. That is what the text shows. To read her as a small child, you have to read against how the narrative describes her. Read the text carefully, check the context, and make sure your conclusions come from what is actually there. If you're ready to learn, grow, and speak truth in love, join us, subscribe now. The conversation starts here.